The Hell Angel came in 10 minutes before closing on a night when the snow fell sideways and the neon sign outside the diner flickered like it might finally give up. And Mara noticed him the moment the door opened because the cold seemed to follow him inside, clinging to the black leather of his jacket and the heavy boots that left melting prints on the checkered floor. He was big, broad-shouldered, beard braided with a silver ring that caught the light when he moved, and the patch on his back made two college kids at the counter suddenly remember they had somewhere else to be. Mara had learned, in her 5 years of late nights and early mornings, that fear was often louder than truth, so she smoothed her apron, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and walked over with the same careful kindness she gave everyone, even as her stomach tightened the way it always did when rent was 3 days late and her phone buzzed with reminders she couldn't answer. He chose the booth against the wall, the one with the cracked vinyl and the best view of the door, sat down like someone who counted exits without thinking about it, and ordered black coffee and eggs, nothing else, voice low, polite, almost tired. As she poured the coffee, she noticed the scars on his hands, pale lines crossing knuckles and wrists, the kind that didn't come from bar fights but from work and weather and time, and when she asked if he wanted toast, he shook his head gently, eyes fixed on the steam rising from the mug as if it carried something he didn't want to remember. The diner was quiet, just the hum of the fridge, the distant clink of dishes from the back, and the jukebox playing an old Christmas song that felt out of place in midwinter sadness, and Mara kept moving, refilling salt shakers, wiping counters, thinking about her daughter Lily asleep at home with a neighbor, about the hole in Lily's shoes that let cold air kiss her toes, about how every tip tonight had felt like a test she was barely passing. The man ate slowly, neatly, fork placed just so between bites, and when another customer laughed too loud, his shoulders tensed for a second before relaxing again, like a reflex he couldn't turn off. Mara checked on him once more, asked if everything was okay, and he nodded, thanked her, eyes finally meeting hers for a brief moment that held something heavy and familiar, exhaustion maybe, or the quiet recognition of someone else carrying more than they showed. When he finished, he set the fork and knife parallel on the plate, slid the coffee cup to the edge, and stood, pulling on his gloves with deliberate care. He nodded once, the kind of nod that felt like a conversation ending, and walked out into the snow without looking back. Mara waited a beat, then went to the table, heart already sinking because she had learned to read the signs, and when she flipped the receipt over, the numbers confirmed it, $0, written clean and firm, no hesitation, no apology, no scribbled smiley face. The sting came fast and sharp, embarrassment flushing her cheeks even though no one else was there to see it, and she swallowed hard, telling herself it was fine, that she should be grateful he'd paid at all, that pride didn't buy groceries. She reached to clear the plate, fingers cold from the air, and that was when she felt it, a subtle resistance, a soft scrape as something shifted against ceramic. Frowning, she lifted the plate, expecting maybe a napkin stuck or a forgotten fork, and instead she froze. Taped neatly to the underside of the plate was a thick envelope, edges worn, taped with care, her name written across the front in careful block letters. Mara's breath caught, the diner suddenly too quiet, her thoughts racing through 1,000 possibilities, some kind of joke, a mistake, something dangerous, something she shouldn't touch, but her name anchored her there, undeniable. Her hands shook as she peeled the tape away, the smell of grease and coffee filling her nose, and for a moment she just held the envelope, feeling its weight, heavier than paper should be, heavier than her week had been able to carry. Part 2. She sat down hard on the edge of the booth, heart pounding like she'd run a mile, and opened the envelope with fingers that didn't quite listen to her, half expecting it to be empty, or filled with something cruel, but instead it was stuffed with cash, folded and worn, the kind of bills that had passed through many hands, and a single folded note resting on top. Mara stared at the money until the numbers blurred, until it felt unreal, like something meant for someone else, and then she unfolded the note, reading the words slowly because her chest felt tight and full all at once. Tips are seen by everyone. Help is meant for one. You looked tired. So did I, once. Don't let pride stop you. Tears came before she could stop them, quiet and hot, dripping onto the vinyl seat as she pressed the note to her chest, the weight of weeks of worry finally cracking open. She didn't count the money right away, just held it, breathing, listening to the hum of the diner that had suddenly become a witness to something sacred, something private. When she did count it, her hands shook again, because it was more than she made in a month, more than the overdue rent, more than the repairs her car needed, more than the small, constant panic that had lived between her ribs since Lily's father had left with promises and never come back. She ran outside into the snow, apron flapping, calling out into the night, hoping against reason that he'd still be there, that she could hand it back or at least say thank you. But the parking lot was empty, tire tracks already filling with snow, the road quiet and indifferent. In the days that followed, the envelope became a secret she carried everywhere, tucked into a drawer at home, then slowly transformed into safety, rent paid, shoes bought, a full fridge, the car starting without a prayer. She slept deeper than she had in months, Lily's laughter sounding lighter, warmer, and every time Mara thought of the man with the braided beard, she felt a strange mix of gratitude and curiosity, wondering what kind of tired he'd meant, what kind of ones he carried with him. A week later, the diner door swung open at lunchtime and a group of bikers rolled in, jackets patched, voices loud, engines still echoing outside, and Mara's chest tightened on instinct until she saw him among them, quieter than the rest, sliding into a booth like he belonged there without needing to prove it. Their eyes met, recognition passing between them, and something in his expression softened, not pride exactly, but relief, as if he'd been waiting to see if the risk he'd taken had landed gently. Mara brought his coffee without asking, hands steady now, and set it down in front of him, the steam curling up between them. She didn't make a speech, didn't draw attention, she simply slid the folded note back across the table, now creased and worn from being read again and again. Thank you, she said, voice quiet but sure. He nodded, eyes glistening for a moment before he looked away, a small, human smile breaking through the beard and scars. When they left, the table was loud with laughter and leather, and when Mara cleared his plate, she noticed the receipt again read $0, right there for anyone to see, nothing hidden, nothing extra. This time there was nothing taped underneath, no envelope, no surprise, because the gift had already done its work, settling into the bones of her life in ways money alone couldn't explain. As the door closed and the engines faded, Mara stood for a moment in the quiet, realizing that sometimes generosity wears the face of misunderstanding, that sometimes the kindest people give in ways the world never applauds, and that one hidden act, meant only for the person who needs it most, can change everything without ever asking to be seen.